Welcome to the RePsychled podcast, where we discuss everyday issues from a mental health perspective. We are your hosts, Dr. Rashonda Strickland,
Dr. LaFonya Jones-Hines,
and Dr. Nichelle Wall. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not going to be your stereotypical therapist.
What we will be is informative, down to earth, a little spicy, and vulnerable.
All right, interns, turn up your volume, grab your pen and paper. It's supervision time. As a reminder, this podcast is not meant to take the place of a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
Welcome back to session 84. Would you mind?
Would you mind? Would you mind? Would you mind? So that's a good question, because what we're going to be talking about today, we definitely need to be asking, would you mind?
Consent is necessary.
Yes, it is. Okay, so if you're wondering, we are going to be talking about sensuality versus sexuality. Yes, we've been waiting on this topic.
We told y'all.
So this month they're going to be a little nasty.
In a good way, though.
I'm so excited.
So, yes, I am too. Okay, so my question is going to start off a little freaky, y'all. Well, maybe not. A little mild. I wish I would have had a freakier question, though.
So this is like the difference between like a jalapeno, a serrano, and like a habanero. Maybe we're at jalapeno level.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so does sensuality have anything to do with sexiness?
I think it can.
Okay.
I don't think they automatically go together.
Okay.
But I definitely think they can be buddies.
Buddies, not cousins?
Yeah. I mean, given the context of what we're talking about, I don't know if cousins is probably
I know.
The correct one.
Yeah.
you know, the nicest analogy.
Right. Okay. That's true.
I mean, you know, they've talked about kissing cousins before, but
yeah.
but I definitely think they can go hand in hand, but not necessarily that they do go hand in hand.
Okay.
And I agree with that. I think sensuality is a machine all in of itself. But when you couple that with other things, it makes that thing even more intense, more pleasurable. It takes it to the top tier.
And I think sensuality and sexiness is an extension of each other. I think it depends on who you're with as well. Like, so if you're with someone that you're in love with, that you're really into, I think the sensuality, of course, can be there. And then it makes you feel sexy, or it can make you feel sexy.
Okay. I can see that. I can understand that. It makes sense, you know, that one can lead to the next. Absolutely.
So just to give y'all a really short definition, because this is all Dr. Wall's area, so I'm not getting ready to even try to, no. So sensuality basically is just you using all of your senses to feel passion, to feel basically alive. And then sexuality is just really about sex.
Yeah, I concur.
Thank you, says the certified sex therapist.
I was going to say, take it away, Dr. Wall.
Yes.
So let's first start with the differences. So often sensuality and sexuality is confused because people think that when you're having sex, you're using your senses. Well, most people, to be honest, only use touch.
Maybe sight.
Maybe. Some people don't care about that either.
Yes.
You might use taste occasionally, but a lot of people don't use that either.
Yeah.
So it is a vastly different process. But since sensuality is inherently desirous, so it is your desire radiating outside of your body.
If what does that mean? I'm getting all the
I know,
definitions.
desire radiating outside of your body.
So a lot of times, especially when I'm talking to my clients, people think that it's like, oh, okay, well, that goes hand in hand with sex. And sex is normally with someone else, but your sensuality is about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily about anybody else. Now, your sensuality can have great effects on someone else, but you ooze it out of your pores. You can tell how comfortable someone is with themselves. You can tell how well they live in their body. And this is not about quirkiness or awkwardness. This is just like, do they embody themselves? How grounded are they in their body?
How can you tell that?
So it is, I mean, it's in everything. It's the way they walk. It's the way they talk. Like, are they owning themselves?
Because that puts me in the headspace of confidence. You know, what people talk about, walking around and being confident with who you are versus simply being confident with your visuals, that you really do take an account of your core, like your whole essence of who you are versus my clothes, my hair, my shoes, you know, my whatever, things that are easily changeable.
Also put me in the mind of people who enjoy their food.
Yes.
Oh, that who is a certified foodie?
Everybody in this room, even the picky one.
Yes.
I love food and it loves me.
Yes.
You know what popped up in my head when you brought that up was when everybody came for my birthday.
Oh yeah,
that was such
food porn.
Food porn. It was such like a sensual experience if you really think about it. I know, you know, Dr. Jones Hahn was coming off in a very emotional morning.
But that's still, but senses.
Yeah. Birthday stuff. Everybody enjoying the look, the vibe, like all of that. It was included in that experience. Shout out to Pangea. You know, if y'all want to sponsor us, we'll come eat.
And can I get some more of them strawberry Pop-Tarts?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And the shrimp and grits.
It was delicious.
Yes.
Having a moment there.
But back to what we were talking about with sexuality, as Dr. Jones Hines was saying, sexuality is only going to relate to sex, the act of sex, and anything that directly leads up to it. So it's just the act of it. It's like the biology that happens.
Okay.
So how do we connect that with the idea of sexuality as in who I want to connect with?
So
you see what I'm saying? Or where I'm going with that?
Yes, it combines the sexuality and the sensuality because you're looking for something. It's not just, okay, I need to become aroused, I need to orgasm. Like, that's not the only thing that you're thinking about. Like, you're looking for a certain je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's that the sensuality becomes a facet of that process.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
That makes sense.
And when you are in your sensuality bag, it is gratifying. Like, it feels good. It's pleasurable. You know, neither one, like we were talking about earlier, is contingent upon the other. And that's an important fact. Like, I don't want anybody thinking that it has to be
right
either or both, or like they are two separate entities that like to get together sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that puts me in the mind of, like, when we tell our client couples that sex starts outside of the bedroom.
Yes.
Say, for instance, you and your significant other like to dance, and y'all go out dancing, especially dirty dancing. You know that.
Is there any other type?
Okay, yes. But you go out dancing and you're dirty dancing, and so before y'all even leave that floor, it's like, wait, we might have to pull over at a park or something. You know, make sure ain't no keys out here.
Driver, roll up the partition, please.
I think this will help everybody's mindset, all the interns as well as us, while we're talking about sensuality and sexuality. Sexuality or sexual is a state of mind, and then sensual is a state of being. Yeah.
Ooh, 101.
Yeah.
So it's levels to this thing.
Man, this makes me think about a class that I took in college, in undergrad. It was called perception and senses, or senses and perception, or something like that. And one of the experiments that we talked about was about evoked potentials, and how it takes a certain amount of arousal within your brain in order for it to activate you to do something.
Yeah.
So you have to sense a certain amount of energy in order for it to create an action potential.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about just being involved in your world and like you experiencing everything, I think it's important for people to remember that it's going to take a certain amount of activation before you go from a rested state, like potential, to an activation state where I'm actually living and experiencing my senses.
Yeah.
You know, it's not an automatic just because you're living in the, you know, and breathing that you are experiencing your senses consciously.
Yeah.
You know, we're always unconsciously experiencing stuff, but to be an active member and involved in the situation, there's a certain amount of threshold that I have to cross over.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, like, with sexuality, you know, of course, because it's about the behavior, our thoughts, our feelings, and all that, I feel like the reason why I was saying that they're an extension of one another is that when you're, it's so many different ways with people with sex. So I'm trying to not focus on just one area, but a lot of times when people are intimate with their partners, they have to either figure out how to get themselves there, or, you know, something. But I feel like if you are sensual with this person, it's easier for you to get there without having to go somewhere else, think about somebody else, think about something else, or think, you know what I mean?
That's the top tier. That's the being.
Oh, go ahead. Well, go ahead then, Dr. Wall.
I mean, that's what makes it be more than, okay, it's not just penetration, or it's not just a touch. It's like, oh, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Did I feel your spirit touch mine?
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference. It's not just this act. It's a whole experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's the difference between going and seeing Lil Susie at the talent show and going and see Beyonce.
Drum roll up the partition.
Exactly. So let's kind of dive more into the sexuality part, just so people can get like more meat and potatoes about that, because I don't want us to gloss over that just because sensuality is going to be the one that we need to work on, or the one that like takes us to the next level.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with sexuality, you know, like I was saying earlier, sexuality is going to be visceral. It's going to be blatant. It's the biological manifestation of the act, whether that's solo sex, or if that is partnered sex or multi-partnered sex, toy sex, all the sexes.
Now we're getting there.
Exactly.
Now we're getting there.
But the thing is, with sexuality, everyone follows a sexual pattern in the same way. There's nudity, there's stimulation of the organs, arousal, orgasm. Like, there's not going to be a fluctuation. Now, you can have sex differently. We're not saying that. We're not saying everybody out here just have a missionary, even though that is the preferred method for the majority of the world. But you are following the same protocol because you're trying to get to orgasm.
Right.
Okay. So the body follows the same process of release. It's all biology. It's anatomical. It's not varied at all. So sexuality comes from a physical desire to have sex or for sex. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I have a question for y'all.
Okay.
So when you have been intimate with someone, what is the act that you feel helps the sex progress? This is just purely biological. And I can go first if y'all need time to think.
Go ahead.
Yes, because I need context.
Context?
Yeah, context for the question.
Okay, so for me, I would say kissing.
Okay.
So kissing can move me into a more sensual place.
I see where you're going. Okay.
But we're just staying in the biological realm. But that literally gets the juices flowing in your mouth, orally, as well as your body.
Gotcha.
So it's allowing you to connect physically, and your mouth is an erogenous zone.
Yes. I would agree with that.
Okay.
I would also say areas that are more sensitive than others.
Okay.
Areas that are not normally touched and considered to be sexual. Things like back of neck or
Like your elbow?
something. That's an inside joke, guys. That's funny.
Oh, wow.
Yes, but not from people that you don't want.
Consent.
Yes. But I think areas that are not traditionally considered to be arousing can be like intriguing and gets the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I agree with both of you ladies. I would also add it depended on my partner.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because I feel completely different about my husband than I have with other partners.
Of course.
And so he could just look at me.
See, she done went all over to the sensuality side. We in the sex part.
I
know. You can't separate it.
Yeah, it's just sensitive. Like he can come home and be like, "Oh,
Well, maybe it's the chocolate drop.
right." So I do know, but yes, kissing is definitely
Okay. So, was there ever something that somebody did completely turned you off?
Yeah. Over the years? Yes. All kinds of things. It's kind of hard to pinpoint one. It can be something this person said.
Yeah.
I was just
It's like, what are you talking about?
It could even be the way they I don't want to say handle me like, but that's, yeah. But
you going into session 3, come back.
Okay. It could just be the way they touched me, and it was just like,
yeah, like it could be the way they looked at you. It could be the speed at which they're moving, and you're not quite at the speed that they're ready to progress things to.
Yeah.
And it could have even been the kiss.
Yeah,
that is true. That is true.
Or not listening. Like if I'm actually communicating to you, like, do this, don't do this, do this this way or whatnot, and you're actively not listening to what I'm saying, like the body's just going to be like, yeah, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
And then the wham, bam, thank you. I'm like, never again.
Yeah. Sprinters.
Yes.
He said, what, Miguel's that song, what is it? I don't want to be loved.
All I was thinking of, he's a runner, he's a track star, but that is not where you was going.
Yeah. I can't get this melody of that song in my head. It's going to come like way later. And I'm like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
But he's a runner. He's a track star.
I agree. I think for me, it's the lack of paying attention. And which is, something that y'all both said. I'm like, okay, so you not in this with me.
Yeah,
you over there with yourself. Sir.
Yeah, selfishness.
I ain't gonna be able.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that's a huge, like, I'm not dealing with you in this method ever again.
Oh yeah. And I think that there's we've talked about the biological piece that comes with sexuality. There's so much social construct layered on top of sexuality and sensuality to some extent, that there are expectations we have of people to meet our needs, but we don't have the same expectation of self all the time to meet that other person's need. Now, of course, if you have a partner that communicates and does all that thing, it's not as huge of an issue, but we're talking about just average people getting together, and having a sexual encounter. If there's no genuine discussion on what I like, what you like, what you're okay with, what you're not okay with, things that may have traumatized me in the past, so that I'm, this is an area that is triggering for me. Yeah. It can ruin an experience that had the potential to be great.
Yeah. And we won't get into the different types of sexuality in this particular session, because that's an hour-long conversation in and of itself, trying to go from A to Z on that.
Yeah.
And that deserves its own time to be able to break down each one of them. But I think something that we all share, and this is just a tidbit of that, is that we're all very much sapiosexuals. And so if you can't stimulate my mind, I don't want you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, I think the more self-aware you are, the more knowledgeable, because I don't even want to say educated, like book educated.
No.
But the more knowledgeable you are, I believe people start to tend to lean more that way.
Yeah.
Even if when they were younger, they weren't like that. But the more you start stepping into that realm, you need, again, it's about action potentials. My threshold for arousal, my threshold for excitement, my threshold for action has changed. So it's to take me from a place of rest and potential, I need more to transition over into an action.
Yeah. Do you all think we need both sexuality? When I say need both sexuality and sensuality in our relationships?
Oh, it's not where I thought you were going with that, but in our relationships. And we're talking coupled people?
Yes.
Or, related people. Let me see.
I would say coupled.
Couple. Okay. Or thrupled or
Yeah.
multipled.
Yeah, whatever. Romantic.
Need. Ooh. I feel like that's strong.
I would say you need sensuality. Sexuality can be optional sometimes. And I say that from the perspective of thinking about people who may not be able, people who may be asexual. The sensuality is what continues to thrive in healthy relationships. It's not to say that they're not wanting it when they want it or whatever their version of sexuality is, but I would say sensuality would be more of the need.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't know if both are a need. I think they're both great and desirable, but I don't know if they're both a need.
So I definitely agree with both of you ladies. I would add to that, I think sensuality is a need because it's about the individual themselves, and because they can exude the confidence that Dr. Strickland was talking about earlier. And so I think that confidence is what we need as we are self-aware, as we are more comfortable with ourselves, and things like that. So that's what I think. That's why I think sensuality is a need. Sexuality, maybe not so much, but
yeah. And folks, we are not saying that sex is not important. That's what we're not saying.
Oh, yeah.
We all are very virile women. Okay, so that's not what we're saying, but we're talking about in the grand scheme of life.
Yeah. I mean, you just think about people that when they reach their golden years, they may not be having penetrative sex like they did when they were younger, but it has transitioned over into something completely different, but they still have sexual needs and desires being met, but it's not in the traditional sense of what people think of when they think of the word sex. Yeah. So I that's why I say I don't know if it's a need, but if you have a sensual based component foundation, then this is good.
I would even to add to that, I would even say a pregnant woman, she may, I mean, not granted, they do say that their hormones go berserk, but she may not necessarily feel sexy, but she may be able to be sensual because she starts rubbing her stomach and connecting with her unborn baby. She begins to just be able to take baths and showers and just allow the water to soothe the pain that she may be in. So that's why I was thinking.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when folks focus too much on sex or they allow it to consume them, they're not really living a high quality of life. And even people that I know and love that are, sex workers and things like that, like they're still balanced in their life, and that's their whole job. Right. You know what I mean? So I think you can get lost in the sauce, literally, and it really messes you up with what you're trying to accomplish and things of that nature. But if you're living sensually, it's really not a way for you to get lost because you're doing what's best for you at all times.
It's so much going on in the world right now, and we could all use some extra support. At Balance Beacon, we offer counseling services for individuals, couples, families, and groups. If you're in Texas, give us a call at 214-396-6503 or visit our website at www.balancebeacon.com for more information. So why do you think sensuality has been generally tied to femininity versus, because in a societal kind of social sense, when we describe sensuality, it's usually described as a feminine trait or quality versus a human trait or quality?
I believe it's because we live in a very patriarchal and misogynistic society as a whole. This is not just America. This is a lot of places. And men are not allowed to tap into both sides of themselves, femininity and masculinity. And that has nothing to do with being gay, being bisexual, being heterosexual, or any of the other sexuals. Like, it's more so you're only embodying one side of yourself. In Asian culture, you have the yin and the yang. And when we talk about some spiritual practices, they talk about dark and light, shadow work, light work. Like, you need both of those in order to be a well-rounded person. But because if a man cries, that's a problem. If a man does this, that's a problem. When the individuals that I know, that be doing their thing, is because they done embraced both sides of themselves. And there has to be an element of vulnerability in sensuality, and that's not welcome in most patriarchal societies. Only women are supposed to be vulnerable to a select group of people.
Yeah, that puts me in the mind of so I just got through watching Queer Eye, and they of course had
the new one.
Yes. On Netflix. Yes. And so they had a lot of, heterosexual men on there. And when you think about like their daily routine, it was like some of them, they didn't even wash, they have a face routine.
No, just out here living crunchy. No sunscreen on, nothing.
Yes.
Right. And so it makes me, to answer part of your question, it's like, you can't even wash your face. Like that's touching your
feminine.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's real weird that our society has gotten to that place. It makes me so sad because men are missing out. And I always say this to my parents that I end up counseling who, are coming to me because their kid has some type of sexuality issue that they believe is an issue. And I said, well, if you were raising your child to be heterosexual and you wanted that person to be with the opposite sex, why didn't you teach them the same thing you taught the opposite sex? Because that ain't gonna work. One person got different information.
Yeah.
And you want them to be together? No. I think that's why there's also been this mass exodus, especially in the Black community, of women being like, F them men.
Yes.
And that's not to say that I'm like, don't ever date a man or anything like that. But I think people are just like, I want more than what society has conditioned me to ask for. I want to go beyond that. And I think as we branch out, people will become more comfortable with their sensuality and not classified as sex. Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do, like we just said, with confidence. Like you can be, because the guys that was on, or I guess the participants on the show, they let them do their thing, and some of them, I was like, oh man, this is going to be rough for this man to, let these 5 gay men, come into their life and do this, that, and the third, but they ended up being like close friends with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what you need to be getting in touch with, that other side.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you gay, doesn't make you feminine. It just makes you be able to get in touch with humanness.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I do too.
Now, for the sensual side of things, sensuality is going to be the activation of your senses. We've already kind of touched on that, and going into, your 5 senses, hearing, taste, touch, smell, What's the last one?
Feeling.
Feeling. I said touch.
Oh, you did say touch. Okay.
Hearing, taste, touch, sight. That's it.
Yep.
Got it.
Got to be able to see stuff.
And if you can't, that's okay too. But sensuality is a whole. It's consuming. It's personal. Like how I visualize it is like when you are living your sensual existence, it's like you're wrapped up in a cocoon of yumminess. I know that's weird, but that's what I think.
So an example that I have for making sure that you're really in tune with your senses is when we were in Vegas for Dr. Jones Hines' wedding, and we went to this restaurant called Blackout.
Oh, yes.
And for those that don't know what this restaurant is, it's a restaurant where you are in complete pitch black. And when I say pitch black, it is literally like not a shred of light.
We had to hold on to each other's shoulders to get to our table.
Like it's so dark in there that the sound is different.
Yeah.
Like, the sound is deadened. There's
sensory deprivation.
Yeah, there's no echo at all. So it is a complete change to your senses, and you have to learn how to experience what you're eating differently, because you don't have your eyes to tell you that you're not gonna like this, or that this doesn't look good, so or it's not presentable, so I don't want to eat this. You have to just be open to the newness and experience and sense flavors in a way that you don't normally, because if I don't eat mushrooms and there's mushrooms on this thing, or it looks like it might be mushrooms, I've already primed my brain to say, no, I'm not going to like this, versus I don't know. So I'm just going off all of the experience of the different flavors together and how they bounce off one another and complement each other. And, you have to be involved and intentional about the experience, so I don't know if a lot of people are intentional about experiencing their life and using all of those different senses.
I agree. Like, people joke about this, but when people get lost, they turn their music down. It's so that they can focus more with their eyes versus their ears hearing the music. Like, our senses are working if we allow them to, and we are intentional about it.
Oh yeah. Just like if you have your stomach is feeling weird and you're like, what was that? Or it started making a little gurgling noise, or you feel sensitive, if your skin crawls, your this is more of a anatomy 101 versus a psych 101. Your erector pili, I think, is what makes you get goosebumps. So your senses are telling you to be either aware of something or that the temperature that you're experiencing is off, either likely too cold, but we don't pay attention to that. We just like, oh, I got goosebumps, and you just keep it moving. But it's like, no, your body is sensing something. It's trying to communicate. It's either in distress, it's excited about something, it's afraid of something. We don't pay attention to our instincts a whole lot.
We
and
need to.
Yes, we do. And it's also like when we get lost, and like you said, we have to use our eyes. But when, back in the day, we used to have like MapQuest to give us directions.
Oh yeah.
And now when we get lost, we have to, no, I saw that building. No, that restaurant, I don't remember that restaurant. So we have to pay, like using our senses to identify that. Okay. That restaurant was right there, so the highway is right over there. To get back on track.
Yeah,
I agree.
We're just not good. We don't get taught how to focus our senses, and I hope this doesn't sound insensitive, but it makes me think about individuals that are missing some version of their senses, whether that's blindness, deafness, or they have a hyposensitivity to pain. And you're missing one of the five. Now they're not all vital, of course, to living, but they are they give you a different experience than if one of them is missing. Yeah. If I have no sense of smell, then my experience of food is going to be bland. You know, food will not really taste like anything because it's smell that really gives you the sense of flavor.
Olfactory.
Right. Yep.
Or if I am blind and I was born blind, then my idea of color, I see there's nothingness. So I don't even see, there's just nothingness. So my idea of color is, you know, it's hard to explain. You know, how does a seeing person explain to a blind person what the color blue looks like?
Yeah.
Or a deaf person not realizing that the world is really loud. Yeah. That a bird chirp is loud. You know, I watched a video of a deaf person that got a cochlear implant, and they were saying they did not realize that their body was loud. Yes. You know, like your stomach growling, your heart beating, you know, like you can hear it in your ear.
This stuff your whole life and don't even hear it no more.
Yeah, like I can literally hear my heart beating in my ears, you know, or when the other thing they said, the toilet flushing, like they didn't realize how loud a toilet flush can be. So just thinking about if you don't have some of these things, it's, you know, it can be hard to experience the world fully, but we don't do a good job of teaching people to be in tune with that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sensuality allows you to embrace your full self, and that's just not something that I think many people are comfortable with. You know, we are more so taught to be critical and pick things apart than to embrace it. So another thing is, you know, sensuality is the art of seduction, and that doesn't need to lead to sex. Like, you need to seduce yourself.
Like you got to look in the mirror when you get dressed in the morning, or whenever you get dressed and you look in the mirror, you got to be like, okay, rub your curves or something, you know. I don't know.
A little body roll.
Right.
Y'all know I like body rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's important, you know, sensuality comes from a physical, emotional, spiritual desire for pleasure in everything. And pleasure does not only equate to when I'm being sexual. It's like, oh, this ice cream good. Did y'all feel that cashmere on your arm? Like, you know, like pleasure can be taken from any experience that we have, you know?
Absolutely.
You know, when you live sensually, you're going to be able to ground yourself in your body on the planet that we live in, and you also stay in the here and now. You stay in the present moment. A lot of times people living in the past, or they way in the future.
And that's how you decrease anxiety and depression.
I swear. Sent some brain waves over there. I was just thinking that. But I was thinking about like seduction and what is considered to be seducing. You know, what behavior is that? What do you see? What do you hear, smell? You know, if we're using sensuality to talk about seduction, like what does that actually mean?
So I like to think of an example. So a man that like popped up in my head immediately when you started saying this, Dr. Strickland, was Idris Elba. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's old school Wesley Snipes. It's
old school Denzel.
He still be, depending on what role he in. He be over here unaliving people. You're like, he did that so smoothly. Good job, sir.
Yes.
You know, it's that something about them. It's like their aura.
Yeah.
You can physically see it.
Yeah.
Even though that's not everybody blessed. You know, everybody ain't blessed to do that, you know.
Yeah, I had heard that from somebody before, that when you have sex appeal or like it's just in you, there's something, it's not taught to you. Yeah. And I think you can I think you can be taught to mimic it.
Yes.
What it looks like. But if it's natural to you, there's just something about the way you carry yourself, about the way your face looks, the way you interact with people, the way you move.
Me of Kenya from the Housewives. She like everything I've seen her on, she just sexy.
Because that's just a part of who she is, even though I think hers is a little bit of a cover up for insecurity, but it is innate in her. Yeah. Your energy comes out.
I interrupt you, Dr.
No, you're fine. But just thinking about some of the actors that you listed, you know, there's something about the way if I had to say, it's their face. And if I was going to, kind of piece that down even further, I really think it's about their eyes. There's a smolder that comes along with just thinking about Idris Elba
that word.
And Denzel Washington. There's something in the way they look.
Yeah.
There's something about the level of squint, like there's a smoldering that comes with just them. And I think that is what becomes seductive.
And not to leave our women out, what are some women that y'all feel can embody that as well? I would definitely, let me just go and throw my person out there, Rihanna.
Yes. I would definitely say Rihanna.
I said mine. Kenya.
Can you more? A seductive woman
that lives her life that way.
Oh, now I don't know if
it don't matter how far back.
No, because I got my other one already in my head.
If we're going way back, I would probably say somebody like Josephine Baker.
Ooh, yes, I love her.
Or Dorothy Dandridge.
Yes. Eartha Kitt.
Girl, I was just going to say Eartha.
A little
I would
bit.
even say
Grace Jones.
She lives sensually all the time. She still be living like that.
Yeah.
That's who that was going to be my second person. I was just going to say
because I was thinking Iman.
Yes.
She's another one that has just like there's just something about her that
I would even say Robin Givens.
Yes. Yeah. She's another one.
Another guy I want to add is Sidney Poitier.
He had
he just passed, but he has a swagger about him as well. I'm trying to think of another woman that has just seductive. Felicia Rashad. Yeah. Oh yeah. And her sister Debbie.
Yeah, there's just something, it's hard to quantify. There's just something about the way this person carries himself that they command the room. When they walk in, you're going to look.
A Thin Line. What's her name? Thin Line Between Love and Hate.
Boondocks Girl. No. You talking about the crazy one?
Yes.
Lynn Whitfield.
Lynn.
Yes.
I was thinking Lynette McKee, but I was like, no, that's not right. Lynn Whitfield.
Yes. And we could probably go on and on, but there are a lot of people that you can see that embody that. Now, we don't know what they're doing on the inside. Maybe they got other issues going on, but what they are displaying is the smolder.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. You wonder how, because you don't have that as a child. You're not walking around smoldering as a kid, like doing the,
smizing.
Or anybody that's seen Zoolander. It's
Lord.
you're not doing that. I wish I could see my face. So you're not doing that as a kid. But how do you develop that as an adult?
I don't know.
What changed in you? What confidence was it confidence that was instilled in you as a child that carried up into adulthood? Was it confidence that you didn't have and you worked hard to achieve?
I think
either.
Now, granted, I don't know if this is the correct answer or part of it. But I'm thinking you learn to embody life. You enjoy life. You begin to enjoy the small things like eating a strawberry or, enjoying a bath or a shower or getting your hair done or doing your makeup or ironing. You begin to enjoy what you're experiencing with the senses.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, what are some ways that y'all believe that we can, tell the interns to help them live more sensually?
I would say one, practice on focusing on your sensations.
I was thinking, as far as oral, taking time and slowing down your eating, chewing slower. Because we tend to go, no, and you swallow, right? In more intuitive eating. So slowing down, savoring the flavors. Yes. So, if that's probably one of the easiest to kind of get started with. If we're talking auditory, listen to instrumentals, because you now have to focus on melody, tempo, all of that kind of stuff. Versus if you're listening to stuff with words, sometimes you can get lost in what they're saying.
Yeah. I would definitely say one way to get you more in tune with any, a sensory deprivation, similar to what Dr. Strickland was talking about.
Yeah. I just did one of those.
Yeah. But one that I like to tell my clients to do, and I think I've said this on a previous session, is go take a shower in the dark. Like maybe just light some candles, but not your actual overhead light or lamp or anything like that. But take a shower or a bath in the dark. It's going to have you paying more attention to how hot the water is, how it feels as it slides down your body, what soap are you using, the fragrance of it. Like it will have you be like, oh, okay, wait a minute.
Especially if you use a bath bomb.
All of that. And then pay attention to what you put on your body afterwards. Your lotions, your fragrances, your skincare routine, your clothing that you put on. Is it itchy? Is it stabbing you, or does it like glide across your body?
Because ain't nothing like fresh shaved legs and new sheets.
Oh, yes.
That's the best.
Woo.
It is. Don't have me out here.
Okay.
By myself. Something else is like wearing noise canceling headphones. Like you see a lot of people more so on the spectrum end or anxiety that do this. You'll see them walking around with headphones on. It allows them to not hear the world outside of the way that they want to hear it. Because a lot of times, especially with a more severe individual that's on the spectrum, they'll put their hands over their ears, not because they don't want to hear you, but because they're trying to make it sound the way they want it to sound and resonate through their body. They're very sensual people.
Yep. Very sensory.
They are.
Yeah. They are. I would even say go eat by yourself and try to eat where at a place where they have a balcony or somewhere you can eat outside, so that you can enjoy the scenery, so that you can enjoy the smell, so that you can enjoy what you're looking at, and just being able to scan your atmosphere.
Agreed.
Yes.
I think those are all good.
Yeah. I think one, if you are into writing and journaling, is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's write down 5 things that you see, or note 5 things you see. Note 4 things that you feel. Note 3 things that you hear. Note 2 things that you can smell, and then note 1 thing that you can taste. So that will also get you in your brain and not only in your body.
It's good for grounding.
Yes.
I like it. I think those are all great.
So for the doctors, I have a question.
Okay.
What is one way that you can show up better for yourselves sensually in 2022?
That's a good question. When I'm tired, actually resting.
Okay.
And not trying to push through.
Okay.
I would say to embrace my fupa, because I had surgery, so I have a bikini cut, and so now I don't know if my stomach will ever be flat as I want it to be, but I have a small fupa, and so just to embrace it and not look at it and be like, ugh, that's so ugly, I need to get that off.
Okay.
Okay, I got plenty of those.
Yes.
Loving your body, of course.
Yes.
Of course.
I mean, if I could give you a laundry list, but
I can give you more.
If y'all
I
want
ain't trying
to,
to put all my business out there in the streets like that.
Yeah, I can give you more, but that's the one. I think that's the one that I definitely pay attention to.
Okay.
The most, because y'all know I love clothes and dressing nice and stuff. So I always have to pay attention to how I look in my clothes. So that's the one thing that is, to me, always in the way. Like, get out the way.
Okay. Okay. I would say for myself is to stop rushing. Stop hurrying up. Because I am a creature that likes to hurry up and wait. Y'all know this.
I love it.
The doctors know, they sent out a whole bunch of assignments I was like, let me do about 5 of them right now. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to do this right now it's not due for 2.5 months. So I'm trying to work on just being here, which I be here, but not feeling like I have to hurry up and get somewhere. Like take my time for the things that I need to do with everybody else, as well as the things that I need to do for me.
Yeah, I like it.
I like all of those. Okay. So we said we were going to start letting you guys know what was coming up in the future. So next session, we will be talking about kinky things.
Performance versus pleasure.
Freaky things. She be bout.
And also, guys, we decided that since, February is just going to be what February gonna be, that we're gonna go ahead a little early and introduce one of our new parts of our sessions, and that is mood music, which is so appropriate for this things. So if you heard, the title of this particular session is Would You Mind, we are eliciting the vocals, the song Would You Mind by Janet Jackson.
Cause baby,
that there
would you
sexy.
mind?
Yes. So make
Ever
sure
so slowly
that part. So make sure after you listen to this session that you also go listen to Would You Mind by Janet Jackson.
And we always end off with a quote.
This quote is from Lebo Grand, and it reads, "People fear sensuality simply because they don't know its actual purpose. But please don't be ignorant, my friend. Sensuality was not intended to make life sinful, but rather beautiful, rich, and delicious."
Must be this volume control.
So, okay, interns, process your notes. Be sure to catch us next session and find us on all major platforms at the RePsychled Podcast.
If you're a new intern, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Thanks for listening. And remember, we are shifting and reshaping our psyche through healing conversations and connections, one discussion at a time.